trusting them will cost you everything. And you know what hurts the most? It's not the betrayal from strangers. It's when the ones you let the closest, the ones you gave your time, your loyalty, your heart turn around and remind you why the walls you built were there in the first place. We're all just looking for people who won't flip the script on us when life tests our worth. But sometimes that lesson comes in pain, in silence, in solitude. I've learned something over the years, and I want to share it with you from a place of real experience. See, you can have all the talent in the world, all the light, but if you don't learn who not to trust, you'll keep giving the keys to your peace to people who don't know how to drive. And sooner or later, they'll crash it on purpose just to watch you crawl. Life doesn't warn you with alarms before someone flips on you. It teaches you with scars. You start to see how people show up when they need something, not when you're in the dark. You realize trust is not a gift, it's earned with consistency. And once it's broken, no apology can glue it back without leaving cracks. But here's where it flips. Your growth doesn't come from shutting down. It comes from leveling up, from developing emotional strength and self-control so deep that your silence becomes more powerful than your words. That's the power of silence. When you don't react, when you don't explain, when you don't try to fix what ain't yours to fix, that's when you take your personal power back. And I had to learn that because people will poke at your kindness like it's weakness. They'll test your limits just to see where your breaking point is. But you gotta master your emotions. Check this to protect yourself, but to stay in control. That's how you become untouchable. Not by shouting louder, but by moving in silence and making power moves they never saw coming. This is about how to command respect without asking for it. When your mindset shifts from needing approval to walking in purpose, people feel that. You don't have to say much. Just show up with that high-value mindset, that fearless energy, that mental toughness that says I don't need to prove anything, watch how I live. Most people give away their power every time they react to gossip, to hate, to disrespect. But when you build that self-discipline, when you lock in on how to stay focused, how to gain confidence, how to silence enemies without saying a word, you unlock a version of yourself that don't flinch when life gets loud. And trust me, once you hit that level of awareness, people will start feeling uncomfortable around your peace. Your calm presence becomes louder than their chaos. That's when you'll see who's really for you, because not everyone who claps for you is cheering. Some are just keeping rhythm to your downfall. This ain't about being cold. It's about being clear, knowing who deserves access to your energy, your dreams, your grind. That's self-mastery. That's leadership skills. That's understanding how to stop caring what people think, because opinions don't build empires. Habits do. When you move like this, you stop trying to get even and you start trying to elevate. Because the real revenge is not in proving them wrong, it's in becoming so right with yourself that their presence becomes irrelevant. That's the winning mindset. That's the success mindset. And it's not for everybody. I've seen people crumble because they trusted too fast, gave too much, hoped to hump. But you've got a shot to break a cycle. To develop psychological power moves that position you ahead of the game. To stay grounded while the world shakes. To build a life based on personal power, not validation. And listen, I'm not here to tell you not to trust anybody. I'm here to show you that trust without wisdom is a setup. You've got to develop the ability to watch patterns, not words. Because someone who shows up when it benefits them will disappear the moment it benefits them or to be gone. This video, every second of it is packed with something I wish I had known sooner. Stick with me, because what we're about to dig into could change the way you move forever. You won't just learn how to make enemies fear you or how to overcome negativity. You'll learn how to become untouchable. From the inside out, people think the biggest threats to their dreams are failure, fear, or not having the right connections. But let me be real with you, the biggest threat is trusting the wrong people at the wrong time. You can survive a bad decision, you can survive a missed opportunity, but when you put your trust in someone who don't value your vision, they'll sabotage it while pretending to support you. And that's harder to see because it comes dressed in smiles and sweet words. See, when you're building something powerful, your brand, your career, your family, your identity, you've got to learn how to move in silence. You've got to protect your energy like it's sacred. Because it is. Not everyone deserves access to your blueprints. Sometimes just telling the wrong person your next move is enough to kill it. That's why I say silence is one of the greatest weapons you got. Silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom, it's control. It's how to stay focused in a loud, chaotic world. When you master the power of silence, you don't just speak less, you hear more. You see the shifts in people. You catch the things they think you're too distracted to notice. And look, I've had folks in my life who I thought were real, who I thought had my back. But when things got heavy, when the pressure hit, they didn't just walk away. Some of them added weight, not because they couldn't carry it, but because they never wanted to see me rise in the first place. And that's a lesson you don't learn from books. That's a self-mastery technique you learn from pain. So you develop a new skill, how to be respected without raising your voice, how to carry yourself with such emotional strength and mental toughness that the world can throw its worst at you and still not knock you off your rhythm. You learn to become your own calm in the storm. That's when people start to recognize your shift. They might say you've changed, but what they're really saying is, I can't manipulate you anymore. When you stop explaining yourself, when you stop chasing validation, when you stop giving second chances to people who only show up to take, not give, that's when you start to reclaim your time, your peace, your personal power. I'm telling you right now, becoming strong ain't about lifting weights. It's about lifting yourself out of places that broke you. It's about learning that toxic belief, that loyalty means staying loyal to people who keep hurting you. That's not loyalty. That's self-destruct in disguise. You've got to learn the art of how to command respect through your presence alone. No arguments, no debate, just energy. Your high-value mindset will speak before you ever open your mouth. It will tell people how to treat you, and those who can't respect that will remove themselves. That's how you become untouchable, not through aggression, but through alignment. The more you grow, the more you'll realize some people are only loyal to their needs, not to you. And when their needs change, so does their loyalty. That's why your power has to come from within. Because when you depend on external sources for validation or direction, they'll control your destiny. And that's not where real leadership skills are born. You ever notice how some of the strongest people don't say much? That's not by accident. That's what happens when you learn how to make enemies fear you, not by being cruel, but by being disciplined. That's the kind of quiet force that shakes people. It's not about intimidation. It's about clarity. You become dangerous in the best way when you master your reactions. When you know how to stop caring what people think because you're too locked in on your purpose to be distracted. That's psychological power. That's self-discipline on a whole different level. This isn't just about relationships either. It's about knowing who you are, knowing your worth, and knowing when to walk away from anything that tries to compromise it. And yes, it will cost you some people, but keeping them would have cost you yourself. That's not a loss. That's inspiration. Let's break something down. Every time you tolerate disrespect, you lower your standard. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow. That's why how to gain confidence isn't some magical formula. It's a result of powerful habits. It's the result of consistently choosing yourself even when others don't. You think people are going to cheer for you when you choose the hard road. But if you want to stay unstoppable, if you want to build that winning mindset, you got to be willing to be misunderstood for a while. That's part of the process. And look, I know it gets lonely. Sometimes overcoming negativity feels like trying to swim with weights on your back. But that's where your inner strength is tested. That's where character is built. When you keep moving even when no one's clapping at power. It's easy to be kind when everything's good. But can you stay grounded when things get ugly? Can you stay graceful when the world disrespects you? Can you keep that fearless mindset when the people you trusted fall short? If you can, you're already ahead. Because emotional control and chaos is the real flex. You don't always need to react. You don't need to expose people. Sometimes the best move is to let them fall on their own. That's the essence of how to silence enemies by giving them no room in your head or your heart. They can't play games where you don't show up to the field. So if you're in that phase right now, where you're questioning who you can trust, questioning who's real good, that means you're waking up. That means you're ready to lead yourself instead of waiting on someone else to steer the ship. And trust me, I know this journey ain't for everyone. Not everybody's gonna like your growth. Some people like you better when you weren't sure, insecure, easy to manipulate. But you weren't born to shrink for nobody. You weren't built to dim your light to make others feel comfortable. You were made to rise. And rising takes sacrifice. It takes clarity. It takes choosing the hard conversations, the solitude, the nights you sit in silence questioning everything and still choosing to believe in something greater. You're not doing this for claps. You're not doing this for validation. You're doing it because the old version of you was too fragile to carry the future you're building. And now you're different. You're sharper, stronger. And it all starts by understanding the truth behind the title. Trusting them will cost you everything. So choose wisely. You ever notice how it's usually the people closest to you who cause the deepest cuts? Not because they're more dangerous, but because you gave them the sharpest access. You gave them your trust. You let them in. And when you trust without discernment, you give people the power to shape your story. See, not everyone is supposed to walk with you forever. Some are just passing through, and you mistake their presence for permanence. And that's where the hurt begins. That's where the betrayal stings the most. But listen, your peace is more important than fake loyalty. There's no medal for sacrificing your growth for people who don't even clap when you win. You have to understand something deep if you want to rise. There's a major difference between being liked and being respected. You don't need to be everyone's favorite. You don't need to explain your moves. You don't need to apologize for wanting more. Because how to be respected has nothing to do with approval and everything to do with consistency, strength, and self-respect. That's why self-control is so powerful. When you can control your emotions, you take back your power. When you don't respond with anger, when you don't let their shade pull you into darkness, when you hold your center while they lose theirs as mastering emotions. That's mental strength most people never develop. People getting comfortable around discipline. They get offended by your focus. You'll hear things like you've changed or you're distant now. Know what you are is clear. What you are is intentional. You're not moving away from them. You're moving towards your destiny. It's funny, some folks will cheer for your growth until it starts growing past them. Then they'll shrink you down with passive shade and quiet resentment. But here's what you do. Stay focused. Keep your eyes on your path and don't explain your fire to people who've never had the courage to light their own. Because when you move with clarity, people start getting nervous. When you stop talking and start building, they get uncomfortable. That's the power of silence. That's what it means to walk like a king without ever needing a crown. You don't have to prove your value. You just have to love it. I've had to learn that some people love you as long as you're convenient. But when you start making power moves, when you start setting standards and creating space for your growth, they vanish. Not them. Their absence is your confirmation. Not everyone is meant for the next chapter. Your silence will start doing the talking for you. That's the beauty of becoming solid within yourself. Your presence will speak louder than their noise. Your energy will start to shift rooms before you even enter them. You'll carry a weight of personal power that can't be explained, can only be felt. It's time to stop handing your peace to people who can't even handle their own chaos. You're not their therapist. You're not their punching bag. You're not their emotional support when they refuse to grow. You're allowed to choose yourself without guilt. You ever wonder how to develop that high-value mindset? It starts with boundaries. It starts with saying no without 1,000 explanations. It starts with creating space, not out of bitterness, but out of inner strength. Because if you don't protect your energy, nobody else will. They'll drain you. They'll distract you. They'll keep you small because your expansion threatens their comfort. But you weren't made for smallness. You weren't built for survival mode. You were built for excellence. And that comes with discipline. It comes with discomfort. It comes with being misunderstood by people who gave up on themselves long ago. Let me tell you this, leadership skills don't show up when everything's smooth. Leadership shows up when it's stormy, and the pressure is high, when people walk away. That's when you lead yourself. That's when you show yourself what you're made of. You've got to ask yourself, who am I when nobody's clapping? Who am I when I'm walking alone? Who am I when the crowd disappears? If the answer is still standing, then you're already on the right path. That's what it means to become untouchable. Not because life won't hit you, but because your response is stronger than the blow. That's the real flex. That's emotional strength forged through fire. Let's talk about something that might hit deep: how to stop caring what people think. That's not just a mindset, it's a revolution. Because people pleasing is one of the most expensive habits you ever carry. It'll cost you time, identity, purpose, peace, and power. You don't need to live on their terms. You don't need their applause to feel worthy. The only validation you need is your reflection and your future self's respect. That's it. That's the only audience that matters. They're not crazy for wanting more. You're not wrong for setting higher standards. You're not selfish for cutting ties with energy that dims your light. That's called evolution. That's called wisdom. That's called growth. This is why how to silence enemies isn't about being louder than them. It's about becoming greater than the version of you who used to entertain their games. You don't have to expose them. Just rise so high they can't treat you. And yes, success mindset will require you to make sacrifice. But here's the truth: you're not losing people. You're losing weight. And when you release dead weight, you move faster, lighter, freer. So don't fear the isolation that comes with growth. Fear the comfort that keeps you stagnant, because nothing great was ever built in comfort. Greatness is carved out of discomfort, out of discipline, out of decisions that scare you but shape you. Let me leave you with this thought before we step deeper into this truth. You don't have to convince people of your worth. Your results will do. You don't have to announce every move. Your success will reveal it. You don't have to chase anyone. The ones who value you will stay aligned. And most importantly, trusting them will cost you everything. But trusting yourself, that's the beginning of everything you were born to become. When you decide to grow, you will trigger people who never had the courage to evolve. That's not your problem. That's not your burden. That's just what happens when you tap into a fearless mindset. It disturbs people who've settled. You start making psychological power moves without even trying, just by being different, just by refusing to break when pressure rises. See, real power doesn't always announce itself. It moves with purpose. It moves with silence. It doesn't beg for permission. It doesn't ask for validation, it just moves. That's what makes it dangerous to those who are still relying on applause to feel alive. So many people out here, they'll look at you funny when you stop explaining yourself. They'll say you've gone cold, you've become too serious. But what they don't understand is you're not being cold. Sure, becoming clear. You're not isolating to hide, you're isolating to level up. You're learning how to make enemies fear you without ever throwing a punch. That's what it means to develop a high-value mindset. It's not about being flashy. It's not about arrogance. It's about creating a standard, a frequency, a lifestyle that speaks before you do. You're not in competition. You're in transformation. You don't need to announce your hustle. Just show up differently. Just keep winning in silence. Because silence is sacred. It gives birth to ideas, to clarity, to momentum. That's the power of silence. It's not emptiness, it's protection. It shields your focus from noise. And let's be honest, the enemy of greatness is not failure, it's distraction. That's why self-discipline is everything. Not because you'll always feel motivated. But discipline will carry you when motivation disappears. Discipline is the bridge between intention and execution. That's how you build a life that commands respect. Look around, how many people do you know who had potential, but no self-control? They had the fire, but couldn't contain it. They had the talent, but lacked the self-mastery techniques. They crumbled under pressure or were sold out for acceptance. That won't be you, because you're learning to master emotions, not be mastered by them. You're learning to stay grounded when chaos comes. You're learning to let go of comfort, to grab hold of legacy. This is what mental toughness looks like in real time. You walk away from drama without needing to defend yourself. You protect your peace like it's gold because it is. You set boundaries that may lose you people but gain you freedom. You're not chasing status. You're chasing substance, and that's rare in a world obsessed with performance. Let me hit you with something real. Not everyone will applaud your awakening. Some people love the version of you that was broken, confused, and dependent. Why? Because that version didn't challenge them. That version made them feel better about staying the same. But you're no longer available for small thinking. You're not here to shrink. You're here to shine. And how to gain confidence begins the moment you stop needing to be understood. Those who aren't even trying to understand themselves. Your personal power is not in your ability to convince. It's in your ability to walk away, to outgrow circles without bitterness, to let the door close without looking back. That's what makes you unstoppable. That's what builds the winning mindset most people will never taste. Let me tell you something about how to stay focused. It's not just about willpower. It's about removing the unnecessary. It's about clearing your schedule, your space, and your spirit. When you focus, you magnify. When you magnify, you move mountains. The moment you decide your future is more important than your past, your life changes. When your actions start aligning with your standards, your results shift. That's how you go from potential to purpose, from excuses to execution. You don't get to your best life by accident. You build it brick by brick. You shape it with discipline, carve it with patience, and fuel it with vision. Overcoming negativity is not about pretending everything is okay. It's about refusing to be consumed by what you can't control. It's about choosing growth over gossip, healing over hate, progress over pettiness. People will try to pull you back into old versions of yourself, but you're not going back. You've evolved, done the inner work. You fought hard to become someone who can't be shaken by words, opinions, or setbacks. You are becoming untouchable, not because you're better, but because you're bolder. Because you've embraced the silence. You've used the pain. You've turned the betrayal into blueprint. That's the difference. That's the elevation. Here's something to write on your soul. You can't heal in the same environment that made you sick. Sometimes trusting people again is the very thing that keeps you stuck. It doesn't make you heartless to stop giving second chances. It makes you wise. You've learned that love doesn't mean tolerance, that trust isn't charity, that your energy is a limited resource and it must be guarded. Because trusting them will cost you everything if you don't know when to let go. And letting go is not loss, it's alignment. It's redirection. It's the universe clearing your path so you can finally run. You're not here to please the crowd. They're here to answer the call. You're here to rise with purpose, led with humility, and walk like someone who knows their worth without screaming. So don't get discouraged if people fall away. That's not rejection. That's refinement. You're not losing your circle, gaining your core. Because when you become solid, when you become sharp, when you become focused, you become a threat to anything built on mediocrity. And you start to inspire without even trying. You start to lead just by being you. You ever notice how when you start leveling up, the attacks get sneakier? People don't always show up with knives. Sometimes they show up with smiles. They use the miles. And that's the part they don't warn you about. The sabotage doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes dressed as support. Let me break it down. Not everyone clapping is clapping for you. Some are clapping because they think you're going to fall, and they want to be close when it happens. That way, they get a front row seat to your collapse. But here's the key: you don't collapse when your foundation is made of truth. You don't fall when your mindset is built on emotional strength and mental toughness. You don't have to attack back. You don't have to defend your name. You just stay focused. You just move in silence. That's your power move. Because the ones who plot behind your back are powerless when you refuse to give them your energy. Let me ask you this: why give explanations to people committed to misunderstanding you? Why waste your breath trying to prove yourself to folks who've already made up their minds about you? See, how to silence enemies isn't with your voice, it's with your results. You know what silences critics? Success. Not flashy in your face, look at me success, but quiet, disciplined, intentional success. The kind that builds generational wealth, internal peace, and unshakable self-worth. That's the kind of success that doesn't scream. It whispers, "I'm still here." Because people will watch your whole journey and still act like you haven't grown. That's when you know it's not about you. It's about their limitations, their fears, their discomfort watching you become what they were too scared to pursue. So what do you do when you've outgrown your surroundings? When you feel like the people closest to you no longer see you clearly, you elevate anyway. That's where the leadership skills kick in. Real leaders aren't always loved. They're not always understood. But they move forward anyway, because their mission is greater than their need for approval. And if you're asking how to command respect, here's the secret: it starts when you stop needing to be liked. It's born the moment you choose truth over people-pleasing. When you show up with consistency, integrity, and vision, that's when people notice. That's when they pause. That's when they feel your presence before you even speak. You want to know how to earn real respect? Set standards and enforce them. Period. Don't bend. Don't negotiate your values just to keep people comfortable. That's how people lose themselves. They trade authenticity for access. And that access leads to nowhere. Now, I want to touch on something deeper. See, how to stop caring what people think isn't about being arrogant. It's about protecting your peace. It's about recognizing that most of the people giving you opinions have never walked where you've walked. They've never carried what you've carried. You don't tell anyone your story. You don't have to bleed just to prove that you've healed. You can let your silence speak. You can let your growth show. You can stay unstoppable simply by refusing to explain yourself. That's what self-control looks like in real life. You don't react to every jab. You don't reply to every insult. You rise. You redirect. You know when to speak and when to stay silent. And that balance, that's power. That's psychological strength. You ever see someone who stays calm in the storm? As someone who's been through enough chaos to know how to master emotions. They don't panic. They don't fold. They've trained themselves to feel it, face it, and still move forward. That's the kind of person who knows how to ignore haters, not by pretending they don't exist, but by refusing to let them set the tempo. They understand that when you let the noise dictate your rhythm, you lose your music, you lose your mission. Let me be clear, emotional strength isn't weakness, it's control. It's being able to walk into a room, hear the whispers, feel the energy, and still choose your response. It's the refusal to be manipulated. That's what makes you untouchable. Let's go even deeper. Sometimes people want to see you fail because your strength highlights their weakness. Your success mindset reminds them of their excuses. Your personal power exposes the parts of them they've been avoiding. And so, they'll try to shrink you with subtle remarks, little jabs, fake support, but you're not here for their comfort. You're here for your calling, and you've got powerful habits now. You wake up with intention. You protect your mornings. You guard your focus. You don't just hustle, you move strategically. That's how you build a life that can't be shaken. Every time you choose purpose over popularity, you're building. Every time you say no to something small to create something great, you're becoming who you were meant to be. The truth is, you meaning something to this world isn't tied to how many people like you. It's tied to how many lives you elevate, how many people you inspire, how much of your potential you actually use. So forget the noise. Forget the fake love. Forget the ones who smiled with you but plotted behind you. Their time is over. This season is about vision, about clarity, about becoming untouchable. If you ever forget what you're capable of, look back. Look at what you've already survived. Look at what didn't break you. That was your preparation. That was your training ground. You're not soft. Your season. This is the season to stay focused, to lead with strength, to trust your voice, your pace, your process. Because trusting them will cost you everything if you don't trust yourself first. And hear me when I say this, your peace is not negotiable. Your time is not refundable. Your purpose is not up for discussion. You've earned your confidence. You've built your boundaries. You've mastered the art of being still without being stuck. And now it's time to take the next step in silence. Because not everyone deserves a front row seat to your next chapter. Some folks gotta watch it from the distance they created. And you keep building. Let me tell you something that took me years to understand. Not everyone can go where you're going. I know you might love them. I know you've built memories with them. I know they were there when nobody else was. But loyalty to your past cannot cost you your future. There comes a point in life where you gotta make a decision. A real decision. Do I keep pulling people who don't want to grow? Or do I walk at the pace of my purpose, even if that means walking alone for a season? Because hear me, trying to carry people who refuse to evolve will drain your energy and delay your destiny. You are not responsible for fixing everyone. You are not here to dim your light just so other people can feel better about themselves. When you grow, you shine. When you heal, you shine. And you rise, you shine. That's your job. That's your lane. And anyone who tries to make you feel guilty for that is not for you. Let's talk about that word focus. It's not just about what you're doing. It's about what you're saying no to. You want to know how to stay focused in a world full of distractions. Start saying no unapologetically. Protect your energy like your life depends on it, because it does. Mental toughness doesn't always look like lifting weights or chasing dreams with hype music in your ears. Sometimes it looks like staying home to read when everyone else is partying. It looks like removing yourself from conversations that waste your time. It looks like knowing when to walk away, even if it's uncomfortable, because you understand that self-discipline is freedom. Most people think discipline is restriction, but non-discipline is the door to everything you've been praying for. You want peace? Get disciplined. You want power? Get disciplined. You want to build that high-value mindset? Start saying no to what drains you. I've seen people sabotage their entire future because they couldn't master their emotions. They let temporary feelings make permanent decisions. And let me tell you, mastering emotions doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you lead your emotions instead of being led by them. You want to know how to become untouchable. Practice patience when you're angry. Practice silence when you're provoked. Practice control when everything inside you wants to snap. That's what makes you rare. That's what makes you powerful. The world doesn't need more loud voices. It needs more strong hearts. People who know how to move in silence without losing their fire. People who understand the power of silence, not because they're weak, but because they're wise. Now let's address something real. There are people out there right now watching you, people who secretly admire you but publicly pretend not to care. Why? Because your confidence is threatening. Your focus reminds them of what they're not doing. Your discipline exposes their lack of self-control. And when that happens, you become a mirror. Not the kind that flatters, but the kind that reveals. And most people don't want to see the truth. They want comfort. So instead of growing, they project. Instead of applauding, they criticize. But you can't let that stop you. You gotta have a fearless mindset. You have to keep moving, because how to make enemies fear you isn't by becoming aggressive. It's by becoming untouchable. You become someone they can't predict. Can't. Because you don't move off emotion, you move off vision. Leadership skills don't start in the spotlight. They're built in silence, in rejection, in being doubted. They're built when nobody is clapping, but you keep going anyway. See, people don't follow leaders just because they're loud. They follow leaders who lead themselves. Leaders who stay consistent when no one's watching, who hold themselves accountable, who show up even when they're tired. That's the definition of personal power, and it's in you. You don't need permission to activate it. You don't need a title to walk in it. All you need is a decision, a real one, and no matter what they say, what they do, or how they try to distract you, you will stay locked in. Because you understand that winning mindset doesn't mean winning every battle. It means staying in a war. It means bouncing back after failure. It means building even after betrayal. And I know that betrayal cuts deep, especially when it comes from people you thought you could trust. But remember, this trusting them will cost you everything if they haven't turned it. There's a difference between history and alignment. Just because you've known them for years doesn't mean they're aligned with where you're going. And if you keep handing out VIP access to people who don't value you, don't be surprised when they disrespect the room. You got to build better boundaries. You got to know how to command respect without ever raising your voice. It starts with what you tolerate, what you allow. When you excuse, respect is not demanded. It's created. It's created by showing up with consistency, with clarity, with intention. It's created when you walk in your truth without apology. If someone's presence brings confusion, pay attention. If someone always drains you, that's a sign. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Not everyone who wants success has the character to handle it. If you want to know how to gain confidence, start honoring your boundaries. Start showing up for yourself like your life depends on it, because it does. Confidence doesn't come from praise. It comes from alignment, from living in a way where your actions match your values, where your focus matches your future, where your habits match your goals. That's the secret to self-mastery techniques. It's not about perfection. It's about alignment, about doing what needs to be done, even when it's hard, even when it's quiet, even when no one's cheering you on. Because at the end of the day, you are your best investment. Not the car, and not the clothes, and not the followers. Why your mind, your peace, your discipline, your time. And anyone who makes you feel like you gotta shrink, question yourself, or place small, they're not part of your mission. They were part of your lesson, and it's okay to outgrow lessons. This is your moment to take everything you've learned and apply it, to stop negotiating your value, to stop explaining your worth, to step into the version of you that no longer needs validation because you've already validated yourself. You've got the mindset, you've got the strength, and now you've got the vision. Let's go. You know what's wild? Some people only come close to you just to study you, not to support you, not to grow with you, but to watch your moves, figure out your rhythm, and copy your style. Or worse, to sabotage it from the inside. And if you don't have the mental strength to recognize, you'll keep opening your doors to snakes dressed as friends. See, loyalty is rare because the real ones are rare. And people can fake love, they can fake smiles, they can fake concern, but they can't fake energy. Energy never lies. When someone's presence makes your spirit shrink, when your intuition is whispering something ancient, right? Listen. That's your inner strength speaking. That's your soul saying, protect your peace. The truth is, when you really step into your personal power, you're going to be tested. Not by your enemies, but by people you once trusted. That's the cost of growth. That's the cost of elevation. Every level requires a new filter. You can't carry old energy into new seasons. Let me break this down for you. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that kindness means weakness. That just because you're humble, you can't throw down when life demands it. But understand, this emotional strength doesn't mean passive. It means intentional. It means measured. See, anybody can react. That's easy. But it takes real power to stay grounded, to respond without losing your character. That's the real flex. That's the psychological power move, choosing peace when chaos is the bait. You want to know how to silence enemies? Let them see you unbothered. Let them see you win without clapping back. Let them watch you build while they talk. Your success is the echo they'll never silence. Your self-control is the punishment they never expected. You don't fight fire with fire. You fight fire with excellence, with results, with elevation. That's how you become untouchable. You ever wonder why people get uncomfortable when you start winning? It's because your success is a reflection of their stagnation. When you start using powerful habits to change your life, you expose their excuses. And nobody wants to look in the mirror and see what they could have been. So what do? They mock you, talk behind your back, try to make you doubt yourself. But guess what? That's proof you're doing something right. Haters don't hate losers, they hate potential. They hate momentum. You want to know how to ignore haters? Understand their hate is not personal. It's psychological. It's a projection of their limitations. It's their soul screaming, why didn't I do more with my life? And once you understand that, you stop reacting. You stop needing validation because you realize they are not your enemy, your distractions are. You gotta master the art of strategic silence. Move in silence. Speak less. Let people underestimate you, that's fuel. Let them sleep on you, that's strategy. You don't need to prove anything. The real ones feel your power without you saying a word. That's what how to command respect looks like. Not forcing your voice into every room, but knowing you belong in every room you walk into. That's confidence. That's leadership. And once you adopt this success mindset, you realize that respect isn't about being liked, it's about being valued. And the more you value yourself, the less available you become to things that waste your energy. Protect your peace like it's your greatest asset because it is. The moment you start walking with a high-value mindset, everything changes. Your boundaries get sharper, your standards get higher, and people either rise to meet you or they fall away. Either way, you win. Let's talk setbacks for a second. I've been through them, crushed by them, rebuilt after them. And I can tell you this with my whole chest, setbacks are not stop signs. They're signals. Signals that you need to shift, defocus, adjust. Sometimes the pain is just redirecting you to power. You lost the job. Maybe that wasn't your calling. The relationship ended. Maybe that was a weight disguised as love. Whatever fell apart, it didn't destroy you. It revealed you. Because when everything breaks down, your real self shows up. And if you built a foundation of mental toughness, you'll rise from it with wisdom, not wounds. The question is never why me. The question is, what is this preparing me for? That mindset is what separates winners from quitters. That's how to stay focused when life tries to knock you off your path. You want to talk about inspiration? It doesn't come from scrolling motivational quotes or waiting for the perfect day. It comes from waking up and doing the work even when you don't feel like it. Motivational video after motivational video means nothing if you don't move. At some point, you got to decide, who do I want to become? What does that version of me do daily? How do they think? What do they tolerate? That's how you shift from dreams to discipline. That's how you activate your self-mastery techniques. It's not some grand event. It's daily decisions, micro movements. Power doesn't come from noise. It comes from direction, from alignment, from the quiet conviction that you were built for something bigger. Leadership skills don't mean controlling people. They mean mastering yourself. Before you lead anyone, lead your thoughts. Before you guide others, guide your habits. Before you inspire the world, inspire yourself to never settle again. If you want to walk in your greatness, you must understand this. Trusting them will cost you everything if you don't first trust yourself. So build that trust day by day, piece by choice. Build it through consistency, through integrity, through doing the right thing, even when it's hard. Because once you trust yourself, you'll stop handing that power to people who don't deserve it. You'll stop chasing approval. You'll stop explaining your moves. You'll start executing. Your power doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from being intentional. And now you've got the mindset, the wisdom, and the clarity to become everything they said you couldn't be. So let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them what? Because you're locked in now. You're focused. You're disciplined. You're moving different. And guess what? They'll never see you coming. Let me tell you what most people never realize. The moment you stopped resting everybody, you gained back your life. See, this world got you believing that being guarded is a flaw, that having walls up is cold. Not protecting your peace is personal power. Having boundaries is self-love. You don't owe people access just because they smile in your face. Trust is not a giveaway, it's a privilege. And the moment you start giving it out like samples in a store, don't be shocked when folks take it and walk away like they paid for it. Some of y'all are out here bleeding trust on people who haven't even earned your respect. And that's how you lose yourself. That's how you lose momentum. That's how you look up one day and realize you've been carrying people who would drop you in a heartbeat. It's time to stop that. Time to reclaim your energy. Reclaim your direction. Reclaim your identity. Because if you don't guard your spirit, people will drain you until there's nothing left of you but a version of who they wanted you to be. Let me be real with you, there's no winning mindset without self-discipline. There's no fearless mindset without emotional control. And there's no leadership without solitude. You need time alone to build your vision. And the biggest mistake people make is assuming that the loudest one in the room is the strongest. Now, real power don't have to scream. It doesn't demand attention. It commands it by presence, by precision, by execution. That's the power of silence. That's what makes enemies uncomfortable. They can't track your next move because you're not out here broadcasting it. You want to know how to make enemies fear you? Outgrow them. That's it. Get so locked in on your purpose that you become unreachable. Become so elevated that their attacks feel like whispers in the wind. They can reach what keeps climbing, become untouchable. Not because you're perfect, but because you're focused. Because you built mental toughness like armor, and now nothing they say can move you. Nothing they do can shift you. And look, people will say you've changed. That you don't come around like you used to. That you're too quiet now. But what they don't understand is that peace changed you. Pain matured you. Silence drained you. You've been through enough storms to realize some things ain't worth reacting to. Some people ain't worth responding to. You gain peace when you lose the need to explain. That's when you start living on a higher frequency. It's not arrogance. It's evolution. It's self-mastery. It's the realization that every distraction is a test. And every test is a chance to show yourself that you're not who you used to be. That you've grown, that you've elevated, that you're not falling back into the same traps. Let your actions speak. Let your silence echo. Let your glow confuse the ones who tried to dim it. See, life will keep presenting you with people who look like blessings but feel like burdens. And if you ignore that gut feeling, if you ignore your intuition, you'll keep learning the same lesson over and over again. You wonder why you're exhausted, why you feel off, why you can't focus. But it's simple, you're letting the wrong people in your space. And until you decide that your peace costs too much to compromise, you'll keep paying with your joy, your energy, your time. Let me say it again loud and clear. Trusting them will cost you everything if you don't learn how to trust yourself first. Because the ones you think will ride for you might be the ones who pull over the second the road gets rough. And the ones you share your dreams with might be the very reason you never make it. Now, I know it's not easy. Cutting people off, saying no, holding your standards. It's lonely at first, but the more you grow, the clearer it gets. The stronger you become. The more you realize not everyone deserves a seat at your table. You're not being difficult. You're being deliberate. You're not being rude. You're being real. You're not shutting people out. You're protecting your vision. And if someone can't respect that, they were never for you to begin with. That's how you gain confidence. That's how you build inspiration from the inside. Not waiting for applause, not chasing acceptance, but walking your path with conviction. You were not made to fit in. You were made to lead. You were not made to people please. You were made to impact. And every time you choose purpose over popularity, your light gets stronger. Your walk gets bolder. You don't need a trust fund to be powerful. You need self-trust. You need direction. You need discipline. So if you've been betrayed, good. That means you gave love. You were open. You were real. Now take that lesson, take that pain, turn it into self-control, turn it into focus. Let it be the fuel that drives you forward. You've survived too much to play small now. You've come too far to doubt your greatness. The world doesn't need another copy, it needs you. The raw and filtered, powerful version of you. So take this moment and make a choice. A real one, not to trust less, but to trust smarter. Not to fear people, but to know where to place them. Not to dim your light, but to protect your flame. Because you're not just a dreamer. You're a builder. You're a leader. You're the answer to prayers you didn't even know people were whispering. And you don't owe anybody an explanation for your greatness. So here's what you do next. Go back through everything you just heard. Absorb it, apply it, let it change the way you move. Because when you stop trusting blindly, when you start living with clarity, there's no limit to what you can do. You become focused. You become fearless. You become unstoppable. This is your time. This is your moment. So lock in. So move smart. Stay silent. Live loud. And never forget, trusting them will cost you everything if you don't first trust the power already inside you. We are Wisdom Recorder, your knowledge source if it spoke to your soul. Then like, comment, and subscribe for more. We're only getting started.